Quick look today at the ThorFire PF02. This isn't a new model, it's been out for a while, but it's still for sale via the company, and they sent this in to me for a review, so we'll crack on straight onto the product. Opening up the box, you just get spare O-rings and the manual, and taking a look at the torch, you'll notice immediately that this is a fairly long torch for a AAA. It takes 2 cells with this particular one. They also have a PF4 model, which is a bit smaller than this, but we'll have a look over the torch. You can see we have a orange peel effect reflector. I'm going to unscrew the back. You can move the clip position on this to 2 places, so you can reverse that. Quite thick aluminium. It does feel pretty chunky. It's quite a solid torch, that has to be said for it. So just put the cells in, positive terminal up. Screw that back on. Now we have 3 power levels with this. You do have a momentary on function, but there are no strobe modes included. So you just half press to cycle through the power modes. If you leave it for more than a couple of seconds, you'll need to press again, and it will default to the Moonlight mode if you've turned it off, and I'm okay with that. I don't really have a problem with that at all, rather than the highest power level. Now if I've got the 2 AAA cells outside, you'll see there's quite a bit of extra length on the casing, so there's definitely potential to make this torch a bit shorter. You see the overall length here is just over 15 centimeters if you include the button which is on the tail section. And I'm comparing it to the Olight S1A single AAA cell torch, quite a bit larger, and S1A, just to show you a comparison between them. The AA torches will have similar power levels to this because of the higher capacity, but they're quite a bit shorter even if they are a bit thicker. I'm pretty happy with the build on this. It's a nice chunky design, but it is a bit on the long side for a pen light. You can see compared to a Parker pen here. When you headstand the torch, one of the advantages of the uneven bezel design is you'll easily be able to see if you've left it on. We'll just flick through the manual quickly, not too much information on this, just basic operation, and gives you some information on your warranty period as well. Pretty straightforward torch to operate. Moving on to my waterproof test, I left this in water for half an hour, no problems at all with it. I haven't had any issues so far with the torches that I've looked at. And we'll have a look at the beam shot. You can see we do have a fairly well diffused central spot. This doesn't have the width or the wide angle that some of the torches have. We're into the Moonlight mode now, so I'd estimate this to be around about the 1 lumen, perhaps a little bit under that. Quite a nice low output, so if you're a fan of that, you will like this. Now we're on the PF2, and we're on the medium setting, which is probably around about 35 lumens, possibly 40, and then you've got to jump up to the top, which is rated to around about 150. Now because the beam pattern on this is a bit narrower, you get a bit more range or throw with this model. I compare it to the Olight S1A, which is a single cell AAA torch, and that has a sub 100 lumen output. So the more batteries that you have with these torches, you get more power output. But on the S1A, that's actually rated slightly higher than the ThorFire, around about 220 at the highest level. The beam pattern's quite different on these. The Olight spreads it out a bit more because it has that optical lens on the front. Onto the telephoto test, because of the slightly more focused beam with this torch, you actually get pretty decent range, so it's lighting that up quite well. And again, onto the tree, you don't get that big power that you get with the other lithium torches that I've tested, but you do get a fairly decent usable power output, and it's a decent step up from the single AAA torches. Just a quick test on the Moonlight, just opening up a storage bunker here. I'll put my hand in the frame just to show you. I find it quite usable. It's about right for a Moonlight mode, and I compare it to the S1A, which is a little bit lower. That's probably around about the half a lumen mark, so it's a touch higher than that, but it's still perfectly decent little Moonlight mode. Now on the side of the house test, I've gone from the medium to the high. Did notice a bit of flicker occasionally, whether that's the switch not quite contacting, possibly could be. Didn't have it that often, but I've just left it in to show you. And on the S1A, if you compare the two, you'll be able to see that the S1A, the Olight, is covering pretty much the whole frame there, whereas it wasn't quite on the ThorFire. Not a big deal, not much of an issue there. It's just going to give you a bit extra range on the ThorFire and a bit less spread. And you can see here with the roof test, quite a distance up there to the top, and I could see there no problems at all, because you've got that area which is a bit more focused in the middle. That's where your range is coming from. This is on the medium power setting at fairly close range, which I'd find pretty good if you need that extra power over the Moonlight. That's the sort of setting that I'd be using for that. And the 2 cells will give you an advantage in terms of the longer run times compared to a single cell AAA battery. So a couple of thoughts on the ThorFire. Overall, pretty good little torch, but I definitely would change a couple of things with this one. Firstly, whilst I like the tactical feel and the aggressive sort of thick chunky knurling, it's also a bit on the big side for me for a 2-cell AAA torch. I also think that the switch could be a bit better. It was perhaps a bit thin. I'd like a thicker, broader switch on the base, be a bit easier to operate, and also there's a touch on the squeaky side. On the positive side though, it's a pretty cheap little torch. It feels quite well built, nice and solid, chunky design, and the light output, whilst not quite as powerful as the PF4, which I slightly prefer to this, is still pretty decent for a model in this area. So I hope you found that of some use. Let me know what you think of this torch if you've used it, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video.